I'm Chad Ruthermond.
And I'm Andy Kinnick.
And welcome to NOCLIP Pocket, the happiest sound in all the world. Today, we're going to be talking about Wandersong, which is a game that was developed by Greg Lobanov, published by Humble Bundle, and was released in 2018 on macOS, Windows, Switch, and in 2019 on the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. So, this game, Wandersong, is hard to describe for me. I don't... we talked about it last time as being sort of an adventure game where you walk around and you sing to people to solve their problems. And that's like about half of it, I would say. And then the other half is it's like a combo puzzle platformer, extremely light rhythm game elements, and this is a game that just does a lot of things.
Yeah, my first note here is post-2000s non-forced variety.
I don't agree with that, actually, but it is definitely in the same category.
Yeah, like, that was my big takeaway from the game as well, is we obviously talk about a lot of indie games here on NoClip Pocket. And a lot of indie games are like kind of known for like focusing in on a concept. Like one of the benefits of doing indie development is that you can do that. You don't have like a publisher that asks you to include other things.
Right.
But this takes a different approach that in a way that like felt refreshing to me. I didn't know where it was going. It feels like each new segment is something different. In a way that worked for me, because I feel like the game's more about it. I mean, it's like a cliche thing to say, but kind of like the experience of it, and less of like the moment to moment gameplay of it.
Sure, I think so. I think that the thing I differ on here is, and this is like the thing that I was thinking when I was playing this, is this has got to be the closest that we've come to having an episode on Pocket that I feel like maybe should have been a full episode. This game is longer than most of the stuff we cover on Pocket, and in addition to that, it has a lot going on. And yeah, one of the most interesting things about it is that it was this, like, it's not technically a solo dev project. There were other people who worked on it, but all of the game development part came from one guy, and he made a bunch of stuff, and I would say about a third of it is successful. And I think that the rest of it it's mixed. I don't want to, like, I liked playing this game, and I don't think that anything that happened was actively like really bad. But there was a lot of stuff that was exceedingly janky, and they sort of worked around it by making the stakes incredibly low at all times.
Yeah. I guess I'm the kind of person that isn't really bothered by that.
I wouldn't be bothered by it if the game wasn't 10 hours long.
Sure, I don't know. I guess in the context, it didn't really bother me at all.
Yeah, well, there were things... It goes, like, in two different ways. So, if we want to talk about the game mechanically, the primary mechanical interaction that you have with things other than jumping is you have this wheel. And this wheel is like a source of huge consternation for me. Because it's controlled by the right stick, and there are 8, I think, quadrants in it, which I guess would be octants.
It's like a color wheel.
Yeah. And each color represents a note, and that is like represented throughout the world in a bunch of different ways. So sometimes you'll sing to some goo, and the goo will change color, and the goo will take on a different shape because you've done it. Sometimes you sing, and the pitch that you sing at determines what way a platform's going to go. And then other times you sing actual songs. And the problem that I have with the wheel, and I know that it's the first thing that they came up with, because I went through the developer stuff in this game, it is like the best way they could have probably solved what they were going for, but it is so imprecise and difficult to like make work that despite this being a game about music, nothing you do ever feels musical in any way.
It is definitely finicky. it can be hard to like hit the note you want sometimes. Like you'll hit like the area between two notes and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
No, yeah, I agree. Like that is probably like its biggest shortcoming is like I don't know. It feels like it leans a little bit too much towards like expression and like letting you like fuck with the wheel whenever you want to, more than it's about like actually giving you like a like you can't fail. I don't think ever in the game.
Yeah, like even death.
Like
is,
I don't even think you can
back.
die in boss fights.
No.
Like you don't have a health bar. Yeah, and I do think it does lose a little something by having like no stakes at all.
Yeah, there were times when like when you learn each part of or not the parts of the world song, but the
Earth song
or the Earth song, the ones that are like I don't know what they're called, like the ones that you sing at the nexus points to get into the spirit realms. I wanted it to make me play it right.
Yeah,
but it never does. Like it does everything it can to sort of like fudge it a bit, where it'll show you where the next thing's coming with a little moving translucent circle, and they've got like a little happy face scoring system that doesn't add up to anything or do anything, and in the end every one of those songs always sounded like shit because it was always just like ah,
yeah.
ah,
Yeah, you could just mess it up.
yeah, and it doesn't matter. And I don't know. That part, it irked me a lot because, like, I felt like I wanted this game. Like, if it was going to be a you can't fail it thing, don't let me play it. Or ignore what I'm doing and just play the right thing anyway. Because I'm sure some of these songs are melodic and cool. But but the ones that I was playing was warbling. Was horrible warbling off rhythm and off key.
That didn't really bother me quite so much, but the way it manifested for me in a way that bothered me is like the parts where like you put the band together and they ask you to write their parts, and I would want to write like to come up with a little thing that sounded any good.
Yeah,
but then I would like fuck something up and it'd be like blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I would just like not do what I wanted, and then would try it a couple times in a row, and it would just be like, well, fuck it, that's good enough.
Right. Yeah, and that's it. They do that in a couple of different places. You can like make a jingle for the candy shop, and they'll ask you to like compose something, and it's like, I can't compose on a wheel. I mean, I can't compose in any circumstance, but the wheel especially didn't help me. So, it's like designed, like if this was a real musical instrument, if the Wandersong color wheel was, it would be good for doing things where you slur all the notes. I guess kind of like, I don't know, like, does a bagpipe kind of do that? Because it's just always playing.
The trombone.
Like, but it is not good for like picking different notes separately. I think maybe even just having it be like a button press as well. So like move the right stick and then press L, and that'll activate the note or something. Just to make it more rhythmy, I think would help a lot with this. Because, I found myself really enjoying all of the different little things that it was asking me to do, but not enjoying the execution. It was like being shown a glorious buffet, but everything was just sort of middling quality. You're like, oh, okay, this is more like a regular buffet that I'm used to.
Yeah.
It just looks nice. I mean, I could go on.
No, I mean, I don't really have anything else to say about it. Like, I think I just, like, kind of accepted the state of it pretty early on, and it just didn't really bother me.
I don't know. If you're going to ask me to do something for a long period of time, I would have loved to have seen more polish on this.
I mean, I don't disagree.
I think that the little, like the puzzle platformer sections in the spirit realm could have been highlights in the game. But there were a lot of them that just kind of felt like we just did what we could. Like, there were some that felt very much like experimentation that just made it into the game. I was talking about the blobs that change shape earlier. It feels like they were messing around in the in the development studio and found like an object and applied like the transformation to it, and they were like, oh, I could do this like in game. And so they just, because it's like this weird out of place 3D object that interacts with you weirdly in a physical way, where like if you change the shape of it rapidly, you'll like shoot way off into the sky. And they were like, that's a game mechanic, like let's just do it that way. And it's like I loved that. I loved that idea. I'm glad that it was in there. I thought it looked really interesting. But like they do it for 8 seconds, it doesn't really get followed up on or polished in any way, and then you're done with it and you move on to the next thing. It's like, this game feels like it could have really benefited from not having forced variety. And I felt like it was forced variety and not unforced in any way. I felt like they didn't want to do the same thing twice ever.
Yeah. I don't know. For me, like, I listened to like a developer commentary on this earlier today, and he talked about how like in a lot of like game design, they usually start from like a mechanical point and, you know, build out from there, and he gave the reasons why and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, with this game, we wanted to start from an emotional point and, like, kind of build a game around, like, the story or, like, the feeling we wanted. And I don't know, I just feel like that kind of, like, clicked with me, like, pretty early on in a way that, like, I don't know, I just never really expected the mechanics to be more than they were. I don't know. It, like, because, like, for me, like, the variety like was a big, like, probably one of my favorite things about the game is that like I never knew what it was going to do next. Like I really like that it went from seeming like a pretty standard walk around a 2D town and talk to people kind of thing, and then it evolved into like a sail around this map with these pirates and like sing to like steer the boat, and then it's like this middle part where you're like in a little time loop city thing, and it's just like it like evolved over the course of it in a way that like I don't know, I really liked. It's rare for a game to surprise me with its structure like that anymore, and I guess that just kind of like tickled my fancy in a way that like carried the game for me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily know that I wouldn't have described my feelings as like surprise so much. There were elements that were definitely unexpected. The time loop city was a highlight, I think, at least in the abstract. I think the actual implementation of it went on a bit too long. And once again made you do like 100 different things. Yeah.
A fun tidbit about that city is that it's the one part of the game where you don't solve the puzzles by singing, because it's the part where your character is depressed and doesn't want to sing.
Right.
I thought that was kind of interesting and something I didn't notice
while
playing.
And we're not talking about the thematics right now, but it does. I think that is the game's greatest success, I would say, is that it does this, its story really well. And I don't know. That was interesting and was what drug me along through the game.
Yeah.
I just think that, I don't know, it felt like everything was a bit of a mess.
Yeah, I don't really disagree with what you're saying at all. It's just like my experience with it was positive. Because, like, to me, it was like what the game was the story and the character interacting, and like the gameplay was like a secondary thing, and that's just like how it came across to me. And I totally sympathize with anybody who interacts with it, their experience is the other way, because that's how most games are.
Sure, I think that
it just kind of clicked for me, and I don't really know how to explain why.
It feels like the game is its story and its tone and its themes, and it is then twice as long as it should be for what those provide.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I feel like you could cut easily like 2 hours out of the game and it would be better for it.
Yeah. There's a lot of just sort of moving around and doing things, and those things aren't tied thematically in with the other stuff, really.
Yeah, for me, I think like to go back to a point where like you can't fail at anything. Yeah. Like I think that's the big difference maker for me, is that like that makes like your quest a little bit more like amorphous. when you can't die, and it just kind of like you go from place to place, and it's like, how many of the overseers or whatever they're called are left, or like how many do we need another piece of the song? Like I thought we already went to all the guys and we didn't get all the pieces of the song, but now there's another guy to go to who might have the last piece, but blah blah blah. It's kind of hard to keep all the story stakes straight.
Yeah.
When the gameplay doesn't back them up.
Yeah, I remember going back like at the end of the game and being like, I don't remember how many pieces they said there were going to be. I don't remember which ones I've gotten and which ones I didn't. Did killing that person actually get me the piece?
Who gave me a piece and who didn't?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there were supposed to be 4, and I think there were like the start of like the last 3 chapters. I thought we had failed to get all 4, but the chapter starts with them being like, all right, we had to get that last piece of the song. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what?
And I was under the impression that there were 8 for most of the game.
Oh.
And I think that there are actually 6.
Okay, that's probably true.
Because you go through and do the individual like boss mini games at the end, once again, too many times. And I think it is 6. It's like the bell one, piano one, which is 2, I think, because it's the top and bottom row. And then the blob one, the horns, and another one that I'm forgetting. But we may come across in our discussion. Mm-hmm. So I think it was 6, or maybe 5. But we were wrong, both of us, while playing. And I think that it's not very clear.
No.
And that's the other thing, is like the story is not really great. It's all about the actual like,
it's the character moments.
Yeah, it's the emotional part of the game that the focus was put on, and that is what I think works.
Yeah.
The story itself is like, I had this feeling when I was playing through the game, thinking back to Shadow of the Colossus, and I was like, are we now at the stage where we're subverting the Shadow of the Colossus subversion, where it was like, oh, the god in Shadow of the Colossus turned out, spoilers for Shadow of the Colossus, turned out to not be a good dude, and then in this one you think that the god's not going to be a good dude, or the sprite, I don't know what they called her, and that she's betraying you, but like she's more like morally ambiguous even than that. And so now just doing the good hero thing, as she described, is the way that we're solving the problem. Like it went back on its reversal of it.
Right.
And being like, oh boy, they sure did. There were a lot of twists and turns, and I don't know how I felt about any of them.
Isn't that the exact same thing as Shadow of the Colossus, where you think that Dorman is evil, but then by the end he keeps his word and does bring Mono back to life and ends up being like morally ambiguous?
I guess it is more only well, I think you have to interpret Dorman as being evil at the beginning of the game, which I sure didn't. I just was like, this is the video game.
Yeah, it's
voice
like
in the sky.
It's like the devil bargaining. Like I'll take your soul in exchange for hers.
I think the point where you're supposed to realize that Dorman is evil, unless you're just skeptical of him from the beginning, is when you realize that killing the Colossi is not an inherently good thing.
Right.
Which is what you're led to believe at the beginning. And in this one, it's like, oh, go to each of the overseers and get the song. That's the good thing. And then you find out about the hero and how the same person has told them to go kill all the overseers.
Yeah. Am I just completely forgetting it, or was there no resolution to that? Like the fact that she was lying to you?
No, there wasn't.
Because I was trying to think about it today, because I didn't even notice it at the time. Like the game ends, and I was like, okay. I was thinking about it like, a few days later. I'm like, wait, why did she lie? I never figured that out.
I mean, she said that she was sorry.
It's just weird.
That's the resolution.
There's no explanation for that.
Yeah. I think what it is she thinks that undoubtedly, without question, the world is going to end. Mm-hmm. And so she just tells you that you can do something to stop it, to make you not feel as bad.
Like she does this to a lot of people. It's like a Dune thing.
Yeah.
She's just sowing the prophecies, hoping that one will come true.
Well, she said that like the Earth Song thing had been tried
many
times. And I don't know if that is to imply that she did do this a bunch of times and it's just given up hope, which is kind of like the idea that you're given at the beginning.
Yeah.
But then later, like, yeah, she basically says, like, oh, well, you did it differently because you actually went and helped all the people, and now all the people sing, and now it works.
Now, yeah.
Because you need the harmony of all the people in order to make it work. Which is a very, like, PBS-ass story, but like that's what they're working with here, and it kind of matches the tone and everything.
Yeah, I think it works.
Yeah.
It almost kind of like feels like a spirit bomb kind of thing.
It is exactly a spirit bomb.
For all you Dragon Ball Z fans out there. Because it's called the Earth Song. Like it feels like it has some setup. It isn't as corny as it sounds.
Yeah, and I mean it's like. Is it different significantly from, like, the Triforce? Like, not really. You just go and get stuff, and that supposedly has magical power. If anything, this is better than the Triforce from, like, a narrative level, because it is, because there is, like, a weight behind it. There's actually, they do subvert the thing. It's like if you got all the pieces of the Triforce, and they were like, oh, but they've probably done this. Like, it's unpowered or something. And, like, it didn't work. Now you have to make sure that all of the bokoblins are friends with you now.
Yeah, like, the Triforce is just supposed to be, like, mystical, like, power of the gods. Like, you don't know how it works, can't comprehend it sort of thing.
Yeah. It's an eldritch truth.
Yeah.
Kind of like the Earth Song.
Yeah, and it's also yellow, so it checks out.
Yep, you got him. But yeah, I think the narrative works. I think it's a little simple, and I think that it should be. Like, I have no complaints about that at all.
Yeah.
If I have any complaints, they're all philosophical ones. I feel like he's way too laid back, and that
the bard.
The bard is, yeah.
What did you name your bard?
I was so sad that it made me stop after 4 letters. But so I ended up being Elig. Or Elige, depending on how you want to put it. Elyg.
Okay. I just, when I realized, like, I wouldn't have, like, control, really, over my name, because you just get 8 letters at a time to choose from, and you can't, like, plan it out.
Right.
I just picked green for all of them, because that's my favorite color, and it came out as Sone, S-O-N-E, which I kind of liked.
Yeah, it's got a nice little, I mean, I imagine that, okay, I'm taking leaps in logic. Sone sounds like it has
sonar,
or
tone.
like it has that SO prefix. It seems like a root for sound related things.
It's one letter off of song.
Yes, and mine is Eleg, which is like literally one letter short of elegy. Yeah, well, 1 letter, and you have to move the Y to the end, but like, don't worry about that.
Sure.
So maybe they did do something there to make all of the possible...
They took a bunch of, like, music words and chopped them up and used those as your letters.
Yeah.
That's probably true.
Which is kind of impressive from, like, a linguistic standpoint, that they could make stuff that actually sounds like it could be noise-related.
Right.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. Just, while we're talking about, like, characters and stuff, I really like, it's nothing like super unique, but I liked that your 3 main characters are like the classic fantasy party, like, archetypes, like a bard, a mage, and like a knight.
Okay,
like
you're counting
Audrey,
the hero as one of the main characters.
Audrey, I think.
Audrey, yeah.
Miriam, and the bard.
Whatever you call him.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think that's, like, a fun thematic thing.
Yeah. And I really liked what they did with the characters. I think, obviously, this game... First of all, this game has, like... I don't know.
A
like
zillion characters.
Yeah, like 100 named NPCs that you can talk to. Who all have, like, little bits of dialogue. And, like, not all of them are very long. Most of them are just like a self-contained, like, one-off joke, and I think that works. And obviously I would never be like, I can't believe this game doesn't have more depth to all its 100 characters. This game I bought for $10, or however much it was. But what they do with their main characters, I think, is genuinely really good. I really like how they're all sort of like they all feel fleshed out, like, even if some of them are more archetypical than others. Like, I really like Miriam.
Yeah.
Like, I think that character really worked, as far as, like, being potentially, like, partially an audience surrogate to some extent. Like, you might be grumpy.
Yeah, no, she was my favorite character. She felt like the character that was designed to be your favorite character in the game.
Yeah.
It's like what you're saying, like kind of like an audience surrogate. But yeah, I really liked her development. And it's rare that you get that sort of becoming less rare these days, I guess. But like you just get like a platonic relationship between a male and a female character, assuming that the bard is supposed to be male. But yeah, it was just in a way that was really like sweet, I guess. Like the concert scene is the standout scene where you can dance with her and have the conversation is fun.
Yeah, it's that, and like just the fact that they do sort of the character growth thing, but she doesn't like stop being the character that she was at the beginning.
Yeah.
You can see the actual growth without it being a total transformation of her, which I think is a problem when you have a very simplistic story. A lot of people will be like, oh, well, the grumpy old witch fucking now wears rainbow stockings and gives all the children lollipops. And that isn't who Miriam is at the end, and that's probably the better way to go.
Yeah.
It's more believable
Yeah,
that way.
yeah. It feels more realistic. It's just like she makes a friend, and that affects like the way she makes decisions, like in small ways.
She's kind of a Susan Ashworth kind of
Yeah,
character.
no, she's like a you unlock the affinity conversations, the Xenoblade thing.
Yeah. It's like a...
You can now cast magic because you and Miriam's relationship leveled up to S.
You little bard wizard multi-classing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do we make enough references?
I think so. I think we filled our quota.
That's good.
So to change topics a little bit, we both played this on Switch, of course.
It's perfect for the Switch.
Perfect for the Switch. But this, I don't know if this is just a Switch thing or if it's on other platforms, but it had like some graphical, like weird anti-aliasing things, like where when it zoomed in, like the edges were like really jaggy on the characters and stuff, which is unfortunate to see. And I also encountered a bug where the boss fight you do with the other two mages,
the game crash.
the game would crash.
Yeah, same.
Which is also unfortunate.
Yeah.
I had to like Google it and then find out how to put in the cheat code to get the scene select so you can restart the chapter, which gets rid of the bug.
Weird. I just did it again, and it worked.
I did it 3 times, and it crashed each time. So.
That's just bad luck, I think. Yeah.
Now, I mean, from what I found, it's something that's supposed to like hard lock your game unless you do that cheat. But
weird. I had a crash. It was like it was at the last part of it.
Yeah, it's like as soon as you kill it.
Yeah, the game crashed. I booted the game back up, reloaded it, beat the fight, and it just went on. So I didn't quite have that much of an issue.
Yeah.
This is something we talked about. I think the one that it stands out to me is on Nanotale.
I was gonna say Blasphemous that time when I lost that vial thing.
Blasphemous was a bigger deal.
Nanotale also a buggy game.
Yeah, but like I remember us talking about it and saying, like we don't tend to want to focus on the sort of technical aspects of things. We like to talk more about design. But yeah, this game definitely has its share of little problem areas.
Yeah.
The game crash is obviously the big one. That's one of those things where, like, if you were listening to this before you play the game, like, do look out for that. Maybe back up your save.
It's like chapter 5 or something.
Right. It'll be after the part in the big desert. And then come back and try and reload and do all that shit. Like, that's just like a technical thing that does need addressed. As far as like the graphics and stuff go, the thing that I found most often was that I would somehow fall through floors and shit. It seemed fairly common that I would clip through things.
Really?
Yeah, like it happened at least like once every couple of levels. I would just sort of
interesting. I don't think that ever happened to me.
Traditionally,
Yeah.
it hasn't happened to you.
Yeah.
So
It's rare that I glitch into geometry in a game, personally.
I'd say the biggest offender for me, this might not be real, but there was the part where you have to go find the guitar playing guy in the time loop town. You have to like jump across all the roofs.
Yeah.
And the camera doesn't scroll fast enough to do platforming. You would have to come to the edge of a platform and stop while the camera like slowly pans out to give you because that's just how the camera works in that zone. And so you just have to wait before you make the jump. And so I would constantly just like try and run and jump to the next thing and like overshoot it or miss it because I was being impatient. But that would frequently cause me to like, I once got my head clipped into like a piece of the ceiling, like of a roof.
Interesting.
Yeah, it probably brought on more by my own way of playing the game.
Was there a run button in this?
No.
Okay, I was going to say maybe that was the difference because I don't remember using one, but
No, there was not. There was
Okay.
definitely not. If you sang the high pitch, you would go fast. That's not true. I mean, it probably is.
That would be cool, though.
Right? I'm sure it was used in some mini game somewhere like that.
yeah. This game has a dancing button,
Sure does.
which is pretty cool.
I know it has the caramel dancing dance.
I don't know the names of any dances.
Yeah, and it has a dab.
Right.
You just strike a dab for a while. And those were sure some meme ones, but I do like that there is it's really difficult to not want to just be holding it down all the time because it does make the game just like significantly funnier at all times.
Yeah. It just really works in this, I think.
I do wish it was useful in more than like two places.
Yeah, like for some secrets and stuff.
But yeah, what are you gonna do, I guess? So for a game about being a bard and going around and singing songs and stuff, what did you think about this game's actual music?
I feel like I liked it. It feels like a weird thing to say, but I feel like I wish it would have stood out to me a little more. But I definitely wasn't the kind of game where I was like, I don't remember it. It was fine. It was definitely better than that. And I think it complemented the visuals really well. And I liked how like your own like singing and like the tones of like the sound design, like the birds would chirp a song or whatever for you to sing, like how that all kind of blended together. It definitely felt like a part of the game world, I think.
Yeah.
More than other games.
Yeah, that actually is pretty close to what I was going to hit on as well there. It's like, to me, I feel like the sound design in the game is incredible. I think that they do a really good job of inserting all of those things, like you mentioned, the birds chirping, and like in the scene in the factory where like all of the other people are humming or playing an instrument or whatever, and having that build into something greater than its like individual parts. I felt like it seemed like there were so many different music tracks, and they were all written for like each individual zone, and just some of them worked really well, and some of them I think relied heavily on that background stuff in order to make it work.
Yeah.
So I don't hate it and I don't love it, but I think that altogether, I think the audio experience of this, I think, was something they obviously wanted to focus on, and did so well. I think that it was, it's not memorable, like you said, like in the way that it's like stuck in my head, but it worked so well that I'm remembering whole scenes rather than just songs. So I think that's a success in my opinion.
Yeah.
Also, that the pirate ship track is dope.
Yeah, like I know when we talked about similar stuff when we talked about Super Brothers Sword and Sorcery, and I don't know if it's like a hot take, but in my mind, I think this accomplishes incorporating music into the game better than that one.
I mean, I would agree. I think if you listen to the episode, obviously, I would agree. But yeah.
Just don't know if other people would or not.
Yeah. If it's a hot take, it's probably only hot because nobody had thought about it.
Yeah, it's a very, very cold take. It would have been hot, several years ago. But...
I'm coming down
just
from
send an email.
Yeah. So aside from the potential anti-aliasing problems, what did you think about the art style as well?
I liked it. It feels very like Paper Mario or like Kirby's Epic Yarn or something, like a crafty looking art style. But like I think it's like we talked about this on probably like Donut County and maybe Goose Game, but like there's like a homogenous, that might be too harsh, but like there's this kind of like indie aesthetic.
Yeah.
That this definitely falls into, but I feel like it stands out. Like I can't like name another game that specifically looks like this one. So I really liked that about it. I liked like a lot of the Bard's animations, like whenever he's like really excited about a thing and he'll like do this with his fists, like move them both up and down simultaneously for all you listeners.
Everyone.
Yes, except Chad.
Yes.
But just really funny. Like there's a lot of charm and humor in the art style that I liked.
Yeah, I was surprised by because when I looked at this game for the first time, we were deciding whether or not we wanted to do it. The art style is what made me say, like, hell yeah, I do want to do this, because it just looks like crayon drawings, like, obviously higher fidelity, and, like, brought to life in a fun way.
Yeah, like, the character designs feel very, like, kid notebook drawings.
Yeah, and I was just really fucking taken aback by the colors and shit, and wanted to see what it was. And I was amazed because I didn't even like I think the moment that I thought about it the first time is during the sequence where it zooms in real close on your face after you drink coffee for the first time. And I realized that the Bard's face is 2 dots and the world's tiniest little line for a mouth. And I had felt like I had seen emotion being properly and well executed. Like the expression worked, and it's such a simple design, and I think the sound definitely plays into that. He has kind of a Beatle like kind of voice where he'll just and I think that like between bringing in different tropes and little animation flourishes, they managed to create a really expressive art style out of something that is just insanely simplistic.
Yeah.
Then the backgrounds are really nice, though.
Yeah, it's like the Wind Waker thing. Like a lot of time, like simplifying the face, because like cartoons have been doing this for fucking almost 100 years now.
Right.
There's like a lot of shorthand and stuff that you can look at for this kind of stuff, like the simplest little shapes. You know, like arching your eyes makes you look like happy, and you know, same thing with the mouth and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, and they use it to really good effect.
Is there anything else you got on your list you want to jump on?
Nope. The art style was the last thing we hadn't talked about.
Wow.
It's like you were reading my mind.
Or your notes.
Or my notes. You were peeking across the table.
Do we have F-sharp thoughts?
I was thinking falsetto.
Falsetto thoughts.
My falsetto thoughts are, I liked this game. I also saw this game and liked like the art style and the colors and like just the kind of vibe of it. And the idea of like a kind of like a pacifist game where you just sing to everyone sounded interesting. And yeah, like for me, like the variety in the gameplay, like while I agree it is a bit all over the place, like especially one that stands out is like the wizard town when you change the gravity, was kind of finicky. And how like the analog stick would like make you move around the platforms and stuff. But for me, that's like so not what the game was after like the first little bit of it, and it really became about like the characters and exploring the world and like talking to people and them always having different dialogue and like fucking with things and singing at them and seeing if they change color or do certain things. And I really enjoyed all of that in a way that just kind of really carried it for me and that I liked a lot. But yeah, like I think this game, I don't know, it stands out. Like I kind of expected that it might be one of those indie games that like looks interesting, then we play it, and then it's kind of just like okay. But for me, like I don't know, it really like kind of scratched an itch of like injecting some variety in a way that like not a lot of games do. I guess because it's hard to pull off. But yeah, it really did it for me. And if you like the way the game looked and its use of color, I put another game unknowingly on our short list called Chicory or Chicory. I don't know how you pronounce it. That's by the same guy.
Okay.
I didn't know that he was developing that too. So I look forward to checking that out eventually. But yeah, I like this game and I will quit rambling about it.
I also like this game, but like less. I think the game was really charming and it was really funny. It had pretty good writing, though definitely skirts the same line that something like Donut County did, where a lot of the characters were written in sort of this aloof millennial kind of way, in a way that they sort of just wanted it to contrast with the bard. Which is your player character is a little bit odd. But either way, it still landed with me. Like, I thought it was pretty funny. And it went places with its, like, tone that I wasn't expecting it to, that I think made it really hit home. I think it has, like, a certain expression of, like, sort of like a more modern style of, like, general malaise. And that the game is like, just, you know, confront your feelings, that kind of a thing is its overall point. And I generally support it. I think that most of all the things that they did in that zone, they did really well. And pretty much the only complaints that I have is that it just does not have a focus at all on anything. It bounces all over the place, and it wants to do something new every 10 minutes. And sometimes those things are great. Sometimes I am laughing my ass off because I'm grinding down a mountain like it's a Tony Hawk game, and it plays like a faux ska core track in the background, and you collect coins. And then other times I'm like frustratedly walking back and forth on the ceiling, as you just mentioned. So it's so hit and miss. I think if this game was more focused and it was shorter, I think this would be an easy recommendation from me, but I'm more on the fence about it. This is more like if you really want to try something different, this is definitely there and is worth your time. But if you're more casually interested in something different, maybe this isn't the one, because it's going to request a bit of you to finish. Thank you for listening to NOCLIP Paga this week.
What are we talking about next time?
Next time, we're going to be talking about Momodora, which I think has a subtitle that I've forgotten.
I sure don't know what it is.
But it is a 2D Metroidvania game, and to coincide with Metroid Dread, though I think this one is a little bit less dreadful.
I don't know, it's got spooky art direction, like kind of Halloween-y themed. You do fight using a little maple leaf. You play as a girl. I don't really know much about it. I think it's a Western developer, but it takes a lot of Japanese influence. And I'll apologize in advance if those are wrong facts.
So we'll find out next time. And until then, you can get a hold of us. All of our contact information is on our website at noclippodcast.com. or on splattershot.pro. There you can find links to our Discord, our Twitter, our email address. If you want to send us a cool-ass podcast dudes email. And you can check out all of our old episodes there or on YouTube, including episodes on basically anything on Pocket. Really kind of fits in with this one, huh? We mentioned several games here with fucking Donut County, Goose Game.
Yeah, Sword and Sorcery.
Sword and Sorcery. I made a glib reference to the cat lady earlier. Xenoblade.
I don't know. Toem was a recent one, a short hike.
Yeah.
Some fun indie experiences.
Yep. This is a wheelhouse game. Our wheelhouse is filling up.
This wheel just so happens to be 8 notes that are color-coded.
Uh-huh. And if you hold down the top one, it'll let you subscribe. Counteract the wind being caused in the tunnel by a Yeti by holding down the like button. Was published by Humble Bumble.
Swipe right.
Learn an NOCLIP pocket. Swipe right. Was developed by Greg Lobanov, published by God damn it, it's so funny.
Humble Bumble.
It was developed by Hubba Bubba.
We're making games now. This is what happens when you leave Hubba Bubba unchecked for too long.
Welcome to the NOCLIP Pub Clip, developed by Hubba Bubba and Greg Abadabadoo.
Developed by Bumblebees.